Michael Harris was not a man who believed in signs. At 42, he believed in routine, schedules, and logic. Life to him was a sequence of cause and effect. You worked hard, you planned carefully, and things generally turn out fine. That belief had kept him calm for years. Every morning began the same way. The same coffee mug. The same local news channel playing quietly in the background. The same drive to work through streets he could navigate with his eyes closed. Nothing surprising ever happened. And that was exactly why the envelope felt so wrong the moment he picked it up. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. Just a plain, off-white envelope, resting among grocery coupons and utility bills. No return address. Only his full name. Not printed. Handwritten. Neat. Careful. As if the person who wrote it wanted to be sure there was no mistake. Michael paused longer than he meant to. People underestimate moments like this. Small pauses that don't seem important until years later. Moments where instinct quietly tries to speak. He opened the envelope at the kitchen counter while the kettle warmed behind him. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No letterhead. No explanation. Just one sentence. If you trust her this year, you will lose everything you worked for. Michael read it once. Then again. Then a third time. Slower. He didn't feel fear. Not yet. What he felt was irritation. This was stupid. Vague. Pointless. There was no name. No accusation. No demand. Just a warning with no proof. Warnings without evidence are easy to ignore. Michael scoffed quietly and folded the paper in half. Some kind of prank, he muttered to himself. Behind him, the kettle began to whistle. He poured his coffee, sat at the table, and forced a moment out of his mind. But something lingered. Not panic, not suspicion. A faint sense of discomfort. Like hearing a sound you can't quite locate. His wife, Laura, came down the stairs moments later. She smiled at him the same way she always did. Comfortable. Familiar. "How'd you sleep?" she asked. "Fine," Michael replied. He watched her as she moved through the kitchen. Confident. Relaxed. This was the woman he had trusted for nearly 15 years. She handled the finances, the paperwork, the long emails full of numbers and terms Michael never felt like reading after work. It made life easier. And easy lives rarely feel dangerous. Michael slipped a folded letter into the drawer beside the fridge. The drawer where old receipts, spare batteries, and forgotten manuals went. Out of sight, out of thought. That morning, he left for work on time. The drive felt normal. The day passed without incident. But that night, something strange happened. Michael dreamed of the envelope. Not the words, just the handwriting. Over and over again, his name appearing on blank paper. When he woke up, he couldn't explain why his chest felt tight. Weeks passed, then months. Life continued exactly as before. Laura began coming home later some evenings. Not suspiciously late, just late enough to explain with work. She talked more about investments, about moving money around, about planning for the future. Michael nodded. Trust saves time. Questioning costs energy. One evening, he noticed something small but unsettling. Laura was sitting at the table with a pen and a notepad. When she looked up, she smiled quickly and turned the page over. "What's that?" he asked casually. "Just practicing your signature," she said with a laugh. "Some paperwork needs it." Michael laughed too, but the tight feeling returned. That night, he opened the drawer. The letter was still there. Unchanged, waiting, and for the first time since it arrived, Michael wondered not what it meant, but who had written it. The next morning, Michael went to work earlier than usual, not because he had to, because the house felt different. Nothing was out of place. Nothing looked wrong. And yet, he kept replaying the image of Laura's notebook in his mind, the way she flipped the page too quickly, the way her smile arrived a second too late. At the office, Michael tried to focus. Emails blurred together. Meetings passed without him hearing half of what was said. Around noon, He did something he hadn't done in years. He checked the bank account. Not the quick overview, the detailed one. Transactions loaded slowly. At first, everything looked fine. Bills paid. Salary deposited. Normal expenses. Then he noticed the transfers. Small amounts. Scattered. 500 here. 700 there. Always labeled the same way. Internal adjustment. Michael frowned. He scrolled further back. The transfers had started months ago. Not recently. Months. Too small to trigger alerts. Too spread out to raise suspicion. It was smart. Too smart to be accidental. He leaned back in his chair and stared at the screen. This didn't mean betrayal. Not yet. It meant questions. That evening, Michael arrived home earlier than usual. Laura was on the phone when he walked in. She ended the call quickly. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she said. "Just work." He watched her move. Still calm. Still natural. But now he noticed things he never had before. How she avoided specific details. How she redirected conversations gently, without effort. At dinner, he mentioned the bank account casually. "I was checking finances today," he said. "Saw some transfers I didn't recognize." Laura didn't freeze. That worried him more than if she had. "Oh, those," she replied smoothly. "Just temporary reallocations. Tax stuff. I told you about it months ago." Michael nodded slowly. Maybe she had. Memory is unreliable, especially when trust fills in the gaps. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. At 2:17 a.m., he got up and went to the living room. Laura's laptop was on the table. Closed. He stared at it longer than he should have. Opening it felt like crossing a line, but so did losing everything. The laptop was password protected, not Laura's usual password. That alone made his pulse spike. He stepped away. Back to bed. Back to pretending. 2 days later, Michael received another envelope. This one was waiting in his car, on the passenger seat. No sign of forced entry. No explanation. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a single printed photo, a screenshot, a bank transfer, his account number, a destination account he didn't recognize. Below it, a message. "She is not stealing from you. She is moving you out of the picture." Michael felt cold, not scared, empty. That night, he searched the account number. It belonged to a newly formed investment company. The owner's name made his breath stop. Laura Collins. Her maiden name, the name she hadn't used in over a decade. Suddenly, the pieces aligned. The late nights, the careful explanations, the practiced signatures. This was an impulse. This was preparation. Michael sat alone in the dark, holding the first letter in one hand and the photo in the other. 2 warnings, months apart. Whoever was sending them wasn't rushing. They were watching. And now Michael had a choice. Confront Laura and risk accelerating whatever plan she had already set in motion, or stay silent, gather proof, and learn the truth piece by piece. As he sat there, his phone vibrated. An unknown number. One message. "You're running out of time." The days after the third letter were the longest of Michael's life. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't focus. Every sound in the house, the soft tick of the clock, the creak of the floorboards, made him tense. Laura noticed a change immediately, not with suspicion, not with fear, but with calm, practiced patience. "Something on your mind?" she asked one evening as she poured herself tea. Michael hesitated. He wanted to ask the right questions, but every word felt like it might betray him, or worse, trigger her. He decided to gather proof. Every transaction, every email, every note she had left on her desk. It became an obsession. By the third night, he had a timeline mapped across 3 large sheets of paper on the kitchen table. Lines connecting transfers. Lines connecting dates. Lines connecting absences and late nights. And then he noticed a pattern he hadn't expected. Each movement was predictable, like a carefully choreographed dance, calculated to the minute. It wasn't just money. It was control. Michael felt a chill creep down his spine, not from fear, but from realization. He had been living under someone else's plan the entire time. The next envelope arrived on a rainy Thursday. No words, no letters, just a photo. A photo of him, standing by the kitchen counter, holding the very letter that had started it all. The handwriting beneath it read, "You are not a step ahead. You are part of the path." Michael's stomach churned. For the first time, he didn't laugh. For the first time, he didn't dismiss it. He understood now. He had been monitored all along. That night, he decided he had to confront Laura, not in anger, not in fear, but to understand. He found her in the living room, sitting in the same chair where she always read before bed. The lamp cast a soft glow on her face, but it didn't soften the intensity in her eyes. "I know about the letters," he said, his voice steady. Laura didn't flinch. She nodded as if confirming what he already knew. "You've been watching me," she said. I don't know what to believe," Michael admitted. "You don't have to," she replied. "Not yet." She gestured toward the drawer, where the first letter still lay. "Everything begins and ends there. And now it's time to see the full picture." Michael picked up the letters one by one. He noticed details he hadn't before. Folds, smudges, variations in ink. Every small difference told a story. Every tiny mark revealed an intention. And then Laura spoke again. "The letters weren't threats," she explained. "They were a test." Michael's heart skipped a beat. "Why? Why this way?" he asked. "Because trust matters more than suspicion," she said. "Because you need to know what matters to you before it's gone." He stared at her, then at the letters, then at the photo from the third envelope. And for the first time in months, he understood the game. It hadn't been a trap to destroy him. It had been a way to teach him about observation, patience, and awareness. Michael sat down, Laura beside him. The letters spread across the table, and for the first time he didn't feel fear. He felt clarity. The final message was simple, scrawled in familiar handwriting on the last page. Some lessons arrived slowly. This one was meant to last a lifetime. Michael exhaled, a quiet, long breath. He looked at Laura and smiled faintly. "You're unbelievable," he whispered. "And you're finally awake," she replied. For the first time in a long time, Michael didn't ignore the signs. He embraced them, and in that moment, the house no longer felt different. It felt alive. The letters had served their purpose, and the story, as strange and unnerving as it had been, was finally complete.